Hello, universe, and welcome back to these dusty streets noir. I welcome you with open arms and a grateful heart that you're here, and just gonna listen to me yap, just a little yap sesh. For those who are familiar with the channel and you are coming back, high five. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
For those who aren't familiar and are newcomers here, I still welcome you with an open heart, but not arms. Fist bump though, because you guys are still equally as cool, but you would be so cooler. Cooler? You'd be so much more cool. You'd be cool. You'd be the coolest guy around if you subscribed. Knuckle bust though. I'll give you a bust on my knuckles.
What?
That's not what? So what we do here is just talk about a movie that I recently watched. Today, I didn't have to use a Netflix random movie generator because I was finally recommended a movie. So this is coming from Synthetic Silkwood 2206. Daddy, please watch that. I don't have any kids. Okay, child. Please watch The Most Important Thing, Love, by Andrzej Zulawski. I know I butchered that name and I'm sorry, but I did watch the movie. So what we'll be doing is just talking about the gist of the movie at the beginning, then in the middle we'll be talking about spoilers. If you don't want to go over spoilers, I have a mark at the end that skips straight to just my review of the movie without spoilers. But the middle part is just going to be kind of my thoughts during the entirety of the film. Before we get into it, make sure to manipulate the like button to press itself. Owe a loan to the subscribe button so it can't pay you back. Then you'll have to smash them later. And just click the notification bell. Notification bell is a pretty pure neutral right now, so we don't love him, we don't hate him. He's just there and he needs good pressing. So without any further ado, let's get into the movie. The Most Important Thing, Love. The director of this movie, which I stated before, which I'm going to butcher again, is Andrzej Zulawski. The stars of this movie were Rami Schneider as Nadine, Fabio Tasti as Servius, and Jacques Dutronc as Jacques. So a little synopsis on this movie. I'm just going to read this straight from IMDb. Servius Mont, a photographer, meets Nadine Chevalier, who earns her money starring in cheap softcore movies. Also a warning for the audience, this is not a children's movie. This is very adult. Make sure that the children are not in the room while you're watching this, unless you just simply don't care about your children. Anyway, Servius trying to help her, he borrows the money from a loan shark to finance the theatrical production of Richard III and gives Nadine a part. Nadine is torn between Servius, for whom she is falling in love, and her husband Jacques, to whom she has moral obligations. So, sounds pretty interesting. So the movie opens up with Nadine making a soft-core adult film with a man on the floor who's bleeding out, and I think the man shot himself with a shotgun and there's blood all over the wall. But with it being 1975, the blood just looks like it was painted on with a paintbrush instead of like blood splatter. But again, this is 1975, so I can't be critiquing it that much, I guess. And the director is telling Nadine to get on top of this guy and feel him and tell him that she loves him, but she has a hard time saying I love you to the person. Later, a photographer comes in and starts taking a picture of Nadine, but Nadine is like, hey, don't take pictures of me. I don't normally do this. I do this to make money because I need to put food on the table and, you know, eat. I need to slay. And then she starts crying, and then they kick out the photographer, and the people on set are like, hey, yeah, don't come back, give me the reel. And so he gives them a fake reel. Servius does. Servius is the photographer, I guess I should explain that. Servius gives them the fake, and then he beats them all up because one of them punches Servius. Yeah, it goes into this wacky punch-out scene, and then it turns out that Servius had the real reel in his mouth, and he spits it out with a bunch of blood coming out of his mouth. So, pretty sure that reel is ruined, but maybe it won't be. Anyway, Servius goes back to his hideaway den and starts filming adult movies of his own. Because he is indebted to a pimp daddy, which we don't even understand that until later. So it's just kind of like he's doing this too. They're both doing porn. You guys have so much in common. It's hard to believe that you're not in love already. So after filming his own pornography, he goes to Nadine's house and asks to take pictures of her, and she's kind of fine with it, which I felt was kind of weird. Is like, hey, you're the one who took photographs of me and I didn't like you being there. But yeah, you know, you can come back in and take pictures of me naked or whatever. So they're going up to her bedroom, and this is where we find out that Nadine is actually married to somebody, acting a little cuckoo, and is like, hey, who wants coffee? I want coffee. You want coffee? I'm making coffee right now. You're getting coffee. He's like, oh, cool. I love coffee. Who's this guy? And Nadine's like, yikes, that's my cringe husband, but I am indebted to him. Servius and Nadine do get some pictures in. After they take the pictures, Nadine's husband, Jacques,
easy, Jacques, and now you know.
Never mind, it's just Jacques. As I didn't already feel bad as I do now. It's pronounced Jacques, not Jacques. I am embarrassed. Jacques starts going up to Nadine and telling her the width and length of a human being, being like, your nipples to your head is a fourth of a woman, and your arms length are the size of a person. Later, we kind of see that Nadine is kind of spacing out and is kind of just like, oh yeah, you know, I'm fine. Servius is like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. You want to have sex? And Servius is like, bet. Except it doesn't go down like that. Servius was like, let's do this again at your house at this time. And then they come back the next day and they're like, so we're going to have sex. Hold the phone. Was that just some sort of contextual clue that I just didn't get? My place, 3:30. Oh, for more pictures? No, for sex. It felt so random. Anyways, they meet back at her house again, and they're like, so, how are we gonna do this? Servius is like, you know, I'll pour you a drink, and then, you know, wherever it goes, it goes. And she's like, oh, so you need a drink? You're not a confident man? And Servius is like, what? Don't say that about me. I'm confident. I also really love alcohol, okay? And so because of his incompetency, they end up not having sex. And he's like, well, we could just talk about ourselves. And he's like, well, I was in the war. And she's like, I don't want to hear all that. And he's like, okay. And he leaves. And then the very next scene, he's back at the house at 5 a.m, wanting to get down and dirty. It's 5 a.m. the next day, but it's cut where it's the very next scene, so there's no lead up to that. It's just like, I'm back again. I changed my mind. I'm competent now. I would need alcohol. And then Nadine is in the house, lying on the bed, and she gets up and she's like, get out of here. It was very weird editing choice to be like the very next scene is just him back at the house. Another thing that I thought was funny was that before he went up to Nadine, Nadine's husband comes down and is like, yo bro, it's 5 a.m. Go home. And Servius pushes him out of the way and is like, get out of my way. I'm going to have sex with your wife. And Jack is like, oh gosh, okay. Fine. So Jacques is just a little cucky cuck. Later, Servius wants to randomly, out of the 2 times that he's met her, wants to help her out and get her a job. He's the biggest simp of 1975. So he meets up with a famous German actor named Karl-Heinz Zimmer. Not Hans Zimmer. Not the composer. Just a guy. And a lesser known director, Masala. So they get Nadine a part in the play. It'll cost him 10,000 euros, which in 1975 goes around 32,000 euros today. We go back to Pimp Daddy Shark, and we finally understand that Servius was indebted to him. We're back to Pimp Daddy. We're not back to Pimp Daddy. We are at Pimp Daddy. We are Pimp Daddy. And I honestly thought this dude was his granddad. We don't even really know that he's Pimp Daddy until like later. At least I didn't. And I watched the movie twice and I still didn't get it. I mean, I did it on the second time because I'm like, oh, that's Pimp Daddy. And I didn't the first time. There's an older lady there too, which is just Pimp Daddy's wife. Pimp Mommy. And they're both like 90 something. Servius anyways is like, yo, I need 10K because I'm sick. So he didn't tell him that it was for an actress. Gets the money, is now 10K in debt, and it gets Nadine a part in the play. So when he gets Nadine a part in the play, he does ask Masala to not tell her that it was him who got her into the play because he's just really cool like that. And then when Nadine is practicing her roles, Servius is always in the theater in the back watching from the shadows like a misunderstood freelancer indie art photographer boy that he is. There's a scene where Nadine figures out that she sucks at acting and she runs away, and then Carl Hands is also there. And I was like, girl, we are all here because we want to get to a better place. So, cry about it. And a little bit further on, we do see that Nadine does become a bit of a better actress. Nadine sees Servius in the crowd and she goes to talk to him, and they both walk backstage. Servius is acting like, baby, I know you're not happy, baby. I know you want me. You gotta leave him because you hate him. You hate him, don't you? I know you do. You sad and you lonely and you love me. And she's like, no, you're wrong. I love him. Leave me alone. At this point, are we really expected to cheer for Servius? Because it seems like this is weird stalker behavior. It's just weird. It's weird, and he's all touchy up on her. That doesn't feel right. I want a man that'll get me a part in a play and stalk me. And it's weird because she's like, I'm happy. Oh, but she lets Servius like touch her like on the shoulder and like sniff her hair and neck, and she's just like, don't do that. I'm like happy. Like, stop. In other scenes, she's like, I am genuinely happy and I owe it to Jacques for my happiness. So it's like, it's confusing for the audience because I'm like, who am I supposed to be rooting for here? Feels like all these people suck. And then Jacques walks into the room, face full of makeup. He's like, hey Servius, I found that magazine. It's cool. It's awesome that you took pictures of Nadine for. So, and basically he's just being like, I own this girl. You back the heck up. I own this woman. Jacques is like, hey, come over sometime. I'll cook you, dude. Then Jacques tells Nadine, hey, tell him to come over. Then he'll come over. And she told him to come over. And Servius is like, yeah, sure, okay, why not? And Servius, like the e-boy he is, when he leaves the back rooms, he punches the wall. Life never goes my way! Maybe she'll want me if I go back into the room. He walks back into the room while her and Jack are still in there. And she's like, yo, have sex with me, except she says it more vulgarly. Vulgarity. And she's on her knees asking for it, and Jack is like, I have not taken my Viagra. We can't do this because I'm a little flaccid Frank. The last line she says is love me instead of the other thing that you can assume I was suggesting, which is like, oh man, she wants to be loved by this guy, but she feels indebted to him. And there's some other junk in this movie that has nothing to do with the plot at all. I'll talk about it at the end. So we're all back in Nadine's house. Jack and some other dudes are trading and selling Pokemon cards. Take it! They don't do that because Pokemon cards weren't invented at that time. They're trading photographs. So Jacques, no. How American of me. Jacques and these two other guys trade photographs. So like valuable ones Jacques keeps and then eventually sells, and that's how he makes his money. So eventually they all have dinner, and Jacques asks Servius if he likes porn. And Servius is like, no. And Jacques is like, I do. And Nadine is like, yep, he does, but he does not love me. And so Servius is like, this is awkward. I gotta go. There's an appointment I forgot about. And he shakes Nadine's hand and then tries to leave. And then Jacques hops up out of his seat and shakes Servius's hand before he leaves to be like, yeah, you gotta shake my hand too because, like, I'm the man of the house. So I will not let my lotion-covered hands go untouched by another man. That was gross. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I said that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please don't leave. A scene eventually happens that was actually pretty well done, where the camera slowly pans into the Richard III play, and the music intensifies, cuts to parts into the play, and then cuts back to painting in. It was good because the play was like a little fight scene. That scene was pretty compelling. I liked that one. That was a good one. After that, we cut to a restaurant where Masala and some of the actors were there. Masala gets a newspaper and reads about their play. Everybody hated it. The play bombed. And so Nadine is upset. Hans is upset. And so what does Hans do? He beats up 3 guys and takes their hookers and does to them what people do to hookers. It was almost comical. It was like, we're supposed to feel bad for him, but it was just comical. Because later on, we see that Karl Hans had the done dude did it with these strippers, and then he starts crying while looking out a window. You're like, oh man, he's crying because his play failed, and well, I guess he has nowhere else to go. Maybe he's broke. Maybe it's hard for him to find a play. Untrue. A couple scenes later, Servius and Carl meet up, and Carl's like, oh, I'm fine. I got family money, so I'm set for life, and I already have another job lined up. So why was he crying? What was the point? Is he crying because he had sex with 2 women and he's gay? He's like, oh man, I'm not straight. No, shit. Then later, Nadine goes to Servius's house and is like, okay, fine, I'll have sex with you, whatever, fine. For kind of no reason. She was like, I owe a debt, and so she's like, I will have sex with you now. And Servius is like, I'm kind of done with this cat and mouse chase. Peace. And tells her to get out. And when Nadine goes home, Jacques is wearing a pillow on his head because he's reenacting being the ghost he was in a play. Because another thing I guess I forgot to mention is that Jacques and Nadine met through a play, and Jacques played a ghost, which has got me wondering why he was a clown before. Now he's acting like a clown again? Maybe he was a clown. Pretty sure it said ghost in the movie. Nadine tells him that she tried to sleep with Servius, but he denied, and Jacques is like, honey, just give me some respite. Give me like a month or 2. I'm gonna love you better than I have been. So just give me some time. I'm busy. I'll love you eventually, you know. Later, Jacques asks Servius for a favor, and then we don't really know exactly what the favor is. We can assume that the favor was money, because Servius goes to Karl Hans, and Karl Hans gives Servius a check. Servius gives the check to Jacques. And then Jacques is like, okay, well, I don't have to get rid of those naked photos. So, Nadine, tell Servius thank you for making us not poor. And then they make out right in front of Jacques. Felt like a scene where Nadine was like, finally, I realize that my husband is a douchebag, and I'm gonna make out with him right in front of, Servius. But then Jacques does nothing. He sits back and watches. He might as well have clapped because he didn't do anything. Yeah, I knew this was gonna happen. And so because of that happening, Jacques tells Nadine, hey, let's meet up at this spot. Nadine's like, what spot? And then Jacques refers to Nadine in the third person, as of course she forgot. This man, how did he end up with Nadine? Actually, I might as well tell you because I might have missed it. So Nadine feels like she just owes Jacques because she was on a crippling addiction to drugs, and Jacques helped her out. But now it's like Jacques doesn't even love Nadine. So it's a point of where Jacques is here because he's got this lady, and Nadine is there because she has nowhere else to go, and she wants to be loved, but he has no love to give. The story as a whole for this movie sounds interesting, and I feel like if someone were to remake this movie and make it flow a little better, then it would be a lot easier to follow and to watch. Anyways, back to my incoherent flow of my YouTube video. Jacques tells Nadine, hey, meet me at the spot. She's like, what spot? And he's like, oh, you don't know? Okay, this spot. And she's like, okay. And they meet up at the spot. And Jacques is like, darling, I would do anything for you. Except live. And Nadine's like, huh? And Jacques is like, yeah, I can't live for you, so I'm gonna kill myself. Whoa. That was left field. That was, dare I say, out of pocket. You're gonna kill yourself because you let Servius and Nadine make out in front of you? Because your job is just so hard trading pictures. Whoa, okay. Anyway, Nadine freaks the flip out and starts going crazy mode and starts crying and stuff. She's like, why would you do this? I thought you loved me. Jack's like, I do love you. And she's like, that means nothing because you're gonna kill yourself. And Jacques is like, yeah, I am. Jacques overdoses in the bathroom where they met up and dies. The scene was kind of neat where he does kill himself. Not saying that that sounded really bad. Let me rephrase. The scene where Jacques overdoses on pharmaceuticals was shot very artistic because it was shot in one scene with no cuts, all the way from him walking into the restroom, washing his hands, looking directly at the camera for a solid 15 seconds, 10 seconds, chugs drugs, and dies. All shot in one scene. One shot. I thought that was pretty neat. Not him killing himself, because that makes no sense in any of this movie. Later, Servius and Nadine are at the morgue checking out Jacques' old dead bod. Servius is like, he should have done that before meeting you. What the heck? What I'm wondering is how Servius was even there. Because, like, some random guy was like, hey, you knew this guy, right? Oh, he's dead. Who would have... He's not even related to him. Why was Servius at the morgue before Nadine? Before Nadine was even there, Servius is in a corner in the dark. And I was like, man, this guy is dead. I'm surprised Nadine wasn't surprised. Like, why is he here? Oh, because, the movie needs him here. Oh, well, word. Okay. Then after Servius says those things about how he should have offed himself before meeting Nadine like slaps him in the face a couple times. Servius exits the scene. Later, an ambulance drives Nadine up to her house, and guess who's there? Servius. Nadine falls into Servius's arms at some point and is like, help me, I need help. And they go into the big old room in Nadine's house where a bunch of pictures are scattered on the floor that nobody wanted to buy, because what Jacques did before he died was sell all of his photos just to give it to Nadine so she could live. Jacques, you could have lived and kept helping her. All you had to do was show her some love, because she wanted to love you and she wanted you to love her. So Nadine and Servius lie on the floor where the pictures are, and Servius is like, I'll stay here until you fall asleep, so you're not alone during this time. Later, we cut to Pimp Daddy, literally the next scene. The very next scene of being all lovey and sweet, being like, oh, I'll be here with you until you fall asleep, just to be here. Which is like, nice, if he wasn't a stalker. And then the very next scene is an old lady putting on a metal dildo to have sex with this young woman who's crawling around naked on a couch. How do you cut to that? Where's the lead up? It was a jump scare. I was like, oh, this is sweet. Oh! Like that's not it was a jump scare. It was terrifying. Do not let your kids watch this. But anyways, we are back to Pimp Daddy's house. This is where this is leading. We go from full frontal nudity, because Pimp Daddy, that's how you cut a scene. How do we know we're at Pimp Daddy's house? I don't know. Just throw a naked lady in there. Pimp Daddy's like, yo, you still owe me a lot of money. Servius is like, I know, but I don't want to owe that to you because I'm out of this biz. And we also help each other in the war. The war? What does that have to do with anything? And Pimp Daddy's like, I'll give you 10 days to get my money. And if you don't, you know what happens. And then the very next scene is Pimp Daddy being like, it's been 11 days. What is the editing in this movie? It feels so rushed and also so slow at the same time. Servius is like, I got your money. And he's like, well, cool. Well, I'm gonna kill you anyways. And he gets his goons and they all start busting up on him in the violent way. Busting violently. So Servius is crippled and he's lying in the room and bloodied all over the floor and whatever. And then somehow Nadine shows up just because the movie needed her there. And Servius is bloodied and lying against the wall, just like the beginning of the movie. When Nadine couldn't say I love you to the bloodied man on the wall for porn. And she's like touching Servius's face and then she says, I love you, I love you. So she actually said it. She can say it now to Servius. Why? Oh yeah, you laid next to me that one time in the photographs, which was actually really sweet, so I love you now. And Servius is like, could have told me sooner, I'm dying. So, thanks for that. Yeah, and that's the end. It ends right there. It's like the ending and the beginning tied up all together very nicely. Yay. Okay, so the things that didn't matter in this movie is an old man that Servius goes to for advice. And that old man had a wife that Servius slept with, and so the old man doesn't have the wife anymore, and the wife is with Servius, but Servius doesn't want to be with the woman anymore because he likes Nadine. And then the old man dies and then gives Servius a dog, and the old man is the one who gave Servius the idea for a play. And then the woman is like, why don't you want to be with me anymore? And Servius is like, because I like somebody else. It's complicated. And then Servius is like, I feel like I'm trapped, where if I do something, it will be bad, and if I don't do anything, it will be worse. Like, what are you talking about, Servius? You got this woman into a play. What more could you do or not do? You're not doing anything now. You know what's the best thing you could have done? Nothing! You could have done absolutely nothing, but you had to wreck up somebody's marriage and make somebody kill himself. You suck, Servius. But yeah, all that stuff in the middle, nothing to do with the story. Just an old man. I don't even know if he's old, but he is decrepit. That guy is nasty. He ate cat food. You could have left that part out and it would have been better. Hey, you're back. Welcome back. Post spoilers. How was the trip? Was it good? Did you stop for a pee break or did you not? Did you get gas? Was it cheap? Okay, so into the movie review. You know, I was expecting a really, really great older movie. I did look up the reviews to this movie, and I did have to watch this movie on Amazon Prime. That had a rating on it that was high. It was like 4.5 out of 5, 5 out of 5. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a good review. IMDb gave it a good review. Turned out I am the black sheep because I didn't think this was very good. The acting from Romy Schneider was really good. That was definitely the spotlight of the movie. Romy Schneider took up everybody else's spotlight, so she did a really good job. But where one shines brighter, the others look dim. It was really slow and not edited well. It was hard to follow. The storytelling was awful. A lot of different subplots that have nothing to do with the movie. Fabio Tasti, who played Servius, was interesting sometimes, but for the most part, he was a pretty bland character. He was like the hopeless romantic, but more of just like a hopeless romantic stalker. And I'm sorry if that's a spoiler for people who skip the spoilers. Well, he wasn't actually a stalker, but he was like a stalker. Jacques, who played Jacques, you know, he was okay. Playing the role as the indifferent husband. In some scenes, he seems to like really care about his wife, and in others, he just doesn't. So his performance just lacked substance, and I just don't care about him or Servius. So the premise of this movie was more or less like, who will you pick, Nadine? Your husband or the new lover boy? But it really just boiled down to, who will you pick? A guy who's indifferent or a stalker? And it sucked because it's supposed to be about love when there was no love in this movie at all. You can say you love something but your heart is not in it. It kind of reminded me of the movie How Harry Met Sally, and how Harry is just a plain old jerk throughout the majority of the movie, but it seemed like during that era it was like flirting when he was just being a jerk. So that's what I'm thinking the main thing is with this movie as well. So as a generation that I think is a little bit more emotionally aware than 40 something years ago, I think this movie didn't age well. The musical score was lacking very badly. There were only 4 songs throughout this movie, and what really sucks is that each song was maybe 20 seconds, and they repeat the songs like ringtones throughout the movie. One of the songs with the strings, that is one of the main like emotional songs, emotional ringtones, was played a total of at least 17 times, because I counted and there's at least 17. There might be more. 17 times of a 10 to 15 to 30 second loop. Gets a little repetitive. The story is convoluted and makes no sense. There's a lot of unorthodox choices by using characters that never develop, showing glimpses of characters as if they were important and then never develop that character. Goose chases and goofy choreography. This movie felt theatrical, which isn't a bad case, but for me, I found it pretty unentertaining. Another movie that is pretty theatrical but is kind of entertaining is the movie Clue. That movie was very theatrical, but they used the theatrical ofness to be just kind of silly. I feel like movies that use theatrical but are kind of more serious kind of tend to be a little lackluster, but it also just might be an aging thing. So I can't really be like, oh, because this is older it sucked. Like, that doesn't make any sense. For this movie specifically, when you cut from comedic theatrical choreography to a full-on uncensored orgy, it kind of takes me out of it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be like feeling during these kinds of moments. Like shock? Because if so, this movie could have just gone full on shock value. But then it's trying to tell a story at the same time. The only really good thing that came from this movie was showcasing Rami's acting abilities. However, this is not a showcase and it's supposed to be a well-rounded movie. So for that, this movie gets a 4 out of 10. I'm sorry, fellow fan who advised me to watch this movie. I did this for you, and I welcome all advisees. What sucks is that most people seem like they did like this movie, but it just wasn't for me. And it might not be that way for everybody else. Maybe everybody watching this review will watch the movie and be like, you are so stupid, this movie is so awesome, I'm gonna leave a negative review and a thumbs down. But just for me, I didn't find it that appetizing. And with that, I am at a close. These streets are getting swept by authorities, so I have to leave. If you want to stop by any time to see any other laid back videos and maybe reviews, come on back. I might be here next month. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, because I'm not going to be probably doing this that often, and I really appreciate just yapping. But as always, super mega appreciated, and I'm glad you guys stopped by. And yeah, hope you guys have a great rest of the day or night or whatever. And as always, till then, peace, baby.